What growth is so important? In 1950, Liberia's GDP was greater than Taiwan's GDP. However, now in the present day, the GDP of Taiwan is 20 times greater than that of the GDP of Liberia. Economic growth. So, what exactly is economic growth? Well, the increase in economic opportunity and that which generates new wealth is what economic growth is. An example of this is how the recent economic growth in China, which is around 10%, and in India, which was 8%, resulted in more than half a billion people rising out of poverty. So the economic growth throughout the ages. Rapid economic growth is a modern phenomenon. Over the last 100 years, real GDP per capita in the United States has grown on an average rate of just about 2% per year. While this might not seem like much, in the context of history, this is revolutionary. Early on, there was little to no GDP growth, as we can see here. The economy was growing just fast enough to keep up with the very slow population growth. This resulted in very little change in real income per person in the in the 1800s, the income per person anywhere in the world was not that much different from what it had been a millennium earlier, as we can see in the graph. However, following the Industrial Revolution, incomes in Europe began to increase rapidly, as did both the population and the GDP, as they grew concurrently. As you can see, during the Industrial Revolution, both population and world GDP spiked. And this has continued to the present day at an exponential rate. So, economic growth through the ages. For the last 50 years, nominal GDP grew faster than prices and populations combined. As a result, the purchasing power, or the real GDP per capita of the average person, has significantly increased. So, real GDP in the last few centuries not only kept pace with the population growth, but surpassed it. This means that nominal GDP grew faster than inflation and population combined. The purchasing power of the average person in the world today is more than 3 times what it had been 200 years ago.